Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:30 and we will begin the school board meeting. This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public by Zoom for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Opportunities for public participation will be permitted in accordance with policy 167.3. But per newly approved guidelines by the state of Indiana Public Access Office, this meeting is being held using Zoom web conferencing software. All members will participate off-site through this tool to ensure compliance with the current edicts of the governor as they relate to the pandemic COVID-19. Dr. Arthur?
Thank you very much. We would, just as a courtesy, anyone who's not a board member, if you can navigate to your mute button and make sure you're muted, we would greatly appreciate it. That way we don't get any feedback noise for the recording. An additional piece I want to just share for both the news media and anyone else who might want to see this later. It is being recorded because we're using Zoom. It's a little bit easier for us to get it up on the website, so we'll get this up probably a lot more quickly than we typically do when we Facebook Live things. So hopefully that will be helpful to everyone. I'd just like to take a second if it would be okay to ask for a moment of silence on behalf of the school board and as well as the school district for a couple of key people in our community. Sadly, we lost Mr. Keister, who has been a major pillar of this community for many years, representing WCBK and starting that particular radio station and many others over the years if you've read about his history. And so we want to honor him tonight with a moment of silence. Also, we want to honor Paul Logan, the athletic director that was lost to COVID-19 out of North Central. I'm sure many of you probably saw the stadium lights on a couple of days ago. We, along with, I want to say probably close to 100, if not more, other school districts did the same thing in honor of him. And so that was a really powerful moment. And then third, I'd just like to recognize and also enter into our moment of silence, just thoughts and prayers and any light we can shine on the families that are impacted in our own community here by COVID-19. We have staff members who have relatives or family members who are either impacted by the illness or have actually lost somebody. So I would encourage all of us and all of you to be thinking about those individuals. And if we could probably have a moment of silence, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
If everyone would please stand and we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe the flag will be in the square of Jeremy Ogden. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic
for
which
which
it stands,
one
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As to public comments, Paula, did we have anyone sign up for public comments?
No, they had until 6:15. The last time I checked was 6:20 and there was none.
All right, thank you so very much. We will now go into the consent agenda. If I could please ask for a motion for the consent agenda, please.
I entertain that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
That motion was made by Steve Brock and seconded by Debbie Lips. Due to this evening's multi-square situation, I'll be doing a roll call vote. Debbie Lips?
Yes.
Dave Reinhardt?
Yes.
Steve Brock?
Yes.
Don Lips?
Yes.
And myself, Michelle, yes. Motion carries. And then we will go into other business. Dr. Arthur?
Thank you very much. The first item, board members, I want to bring to your attention are two donations that one was definitely a necessity and we were excited to be a part of. And the second one I think is something that I would really like for you to entertain that hasn't taken place yet. In your packet, which you did not have until today, so I want to kind of go over it just so you're not super surprised. You shouldn't be surprised by the two donations because that has not changed. That's the same language, but the actual document we'll need for you guys to sign off on once you approve this, if you do approve it, is new in the packet. But again, it matches exactly what's been on the agenda for at least the last week. The first donation relates to the COVID-19 pandemic directly, and what that basically that particular portion of the resolution number 434 is specifically for purposes of tracking the things that we donated back to the state of Indiana for purposes of PPE for our frontline people. So the state of Indiana about 3 weeks ago asked all school districts to move through their school buildings and all their properties and look for any gloves, masks, hand sanitizer, anything that we had on hand that could be donated to frontline people. They asked for us to gather those items and donate those items directly to our local Board of Health. So we were initially asked for information from the state of Indiana, the Department of Education. We responded to them to tell them how many items we had, and then a week later we were given guidance that we needed to provide those items to the Morgan County Health Department, who would then disperse it to local entities or shift that back up to the State Board of Health. Long story short, as soon as we delivered those items to Morgan County, one of our former employees, who is also the county coroner and has some other connections to the health system, reached out and said they were in dire need of gloves and masks. And I said, well, good news. We just took a pallet, which I think many of you saw. It was on Twitter and some other places. So super excited to be able to donate that stuff. The first bullet on our agenda responds to resolution 434. And basically, in essence, if you approve this tonight, this is a way for us to show down the road, if we were ever questioned why we donated items that were tax paid for, that we have a resolution in place to prove why that happened, and that we didn't benefit from that, but the community benefited from that. The second portion of resolution 434, and I would ask for one vote for both of these items together. We were going to host the IHSA regional basketball tournament at Martinsville High School back in March, before all of this happened. And it was actually still scheduled to go even after most of the schools had closed. And we knew it wasn't going to go, but long story short, we had already ordered and already had on hand all the soda, candy, hot dogs, hamburgers, all the things that we would typically serve during an event like that. Of course, we purchased a lot more because we thought we were holding the tournament. Kip Staggs athletic director, has worked with Kurt Bodell closely to use the items that were things that were perishable, so buns, some of the products that we could use to give back to the community. Those items have already been donated, and that didn't require a resolution because they were school owned and were going to a school purpose. But what we would like is for you guys to entertain a motion that involves us donating all the soda that we purchased. Again, those are not things we can hand out to students, and we can't hand that out through our food drives for nutrition rules. But we don't want those things to waste, and they're about to expire. So we would like to donate both the soda and the candy and anything else that would be perishable that we can't hand out directly to our families to police, fire, and EMS in the community. So I would ask for you guys for a motion to pass resolution 434 that will allow all of us to do those things legally. And that particular resolution is only in place during the pandemic period. As soon as the pandemic is over, this resolution is null and void, and we would not then have the ability to donate things without your permission.
I would say, Dr. Arthur, if I may interject, having a son who's a firefighter, EMT, a daughter who's an EMT, a wife who's a nurse, myself, retired public safety, I'm going to abstain from this vote, but I am very grateful that the school system and the community is willing to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. Appreciate that.
I would like to ask for a motion to approve resolution 434.
I make a motion to approve resolution 434 as presented by Dr. J. Arthur to the board.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion by Dave Reinhardt, second by Don Lips. Is there any discussion? I think this is an awesome, awesome use of material that might otherwise get perished. So I think this is awesome. Thank you, Dr. Arthur, for setting that up and doing that. We will now do a roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve is abstaining, correct?
Although I am in support of it, I think it's best that I do abstain.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Don, thank you. Don?
Yes.
Me, yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, board.
Yes, thank you.
Next item, and we'll, by the way, we'll in the next week or so get those items rolling out to those different agencies. We have a list, and we know that we need to do this. So our maintenance guys who are working some minimal time, we're going to ask them to help us get those out to the right places. So thank you very much. That means a lot. Next item, textbook adoption. I'm going to ask Craig to just give an update, and then I think he has some information about what we'll need to do at our next board meeting.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, in the hubbub of everything, I don't think I outlined the whole process, and I have a few last things I need to tie up with the textbook adoption, but just wanted to very quickly tonight go over that we did have a pretty specific process. Jenny Oakley was a huge, huge help throughout this as far as working with the English Language Arts departments at the intermediate school, the middle school, and the high school. So we did some in-person presentations by the textbook representatives. We met together as a whole group of English Language Arts people, actually upstairs in our office. The middle school invited me to a PLC where we kind of talked through things as well. There was building discussion with the principals, and then finally the principals and I met after they had met with each of their groups. And so at our next board meeting, I'll bring to you the formal ask for the adoption of the ELA books, but that will just be, we'll get the last few things pulled together for that, and then we'll be ready to go and hopefully roll that out in May and June so that the teachers have plenty of time to get prepared with their new materials before the school starts in August.
And I apologize. So are we going to need an approval tonight?
We are not. My apologies.
Okay.
I should have started with that. This will not require a vote tonight. It's more of an informational thing. So
Gotcha.
we
All right,
originally were
thank
going to
you.
ask for a vote, and then we're like, wait, we still have a couple things we need to do. So we're gonna push to next month.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Buckler.
Okay, next item, which is super exciting. I get to talk about some of our amazing hires that we get to make, or recommendations we get to make for hires. So the first one I want to mention is our Martinsville High School principal position. And I want to kind of talk about the process briefly, just to give the public and those who may not know kind of how we got to where we are, and how we chose the candidate that we're recommending tonight. So we will vote. I'm going to ask the board to vote on each candidate separately. So we'll have 4 different votes here. So the first one is the Martinsville High School principal position. This will mix a little bit because of the pandemic and all the things that we had to do to interview, which I'll talk about in a minute. We ended up interviewing several of the candidates for both the Bell position and the high school position, as opposed to doing 2 different sets of interviews. We did them all at the same time with the same round of the first committee. And I'll kind of talk about that here in a second. In terms of number of candidates, we had 19 people who applied for the Martinsville High School principal position, which we were super excited about. While that post was out and was on several different portals that are out there to try and snag, a lot of different types of people. We also, of course, had it posted on our website for a period of time. While that was happening, we also put out a survey to our community, our teachers. It went out to everyone we had an email address for, basically asking for input on what you'd like to see for the next principal of Martinsville High School. For that survey period, we received 387 responses, which we were pretty happy about. A number of those had some significant detailed items in it. So it wasn't just a matter of, A, B, and C sorts of answers, although that was a portion of the survey. We did get a lot of information, just general statements that people gave us. We were really appreciative for people taking the time to do that. What we did with that information was then build a profile, and that profile had, I don't have it right in front of me, but I would say 8 to 10 statements basically that we would hope would describe the new principal. We then took those 19 applicants and put their materials against that profile to determine who was going to get an interview. So not all 19 people, of course, were interviewed, but the people that met that criteria were the group that went forward for the first round of in-person interviews. So the next step was we were going to have in-person interviews, and then COVID-19 happened, which of course then changed our plan completely. And so we moved to Zoom interviews, which if you've ever done a Zoom interview, it's interesting. I'll just leave it at that. So we did Zoom interviews. It was 9 hours of being on the computer with a handful of people from a broad-based group that I really appreciated them taking the time and sticking with us. That was a lot for me to ask of that committee, but I really appreciated them doing that. That first level committee involved board members, a teacher representing NCTA, a parent, central office staff. And so what they basically did, that committee, was they interviewed the people that came forward from the profile. They then recommended 2 candidates to me for a final interview. And I brought on, at the second level interview, a group of people to help me with my interview as well. So at the second round, 2 candidates came forward. And in the second round, it was myself, 3 directors, and Mr. Buckler. And so we fired a lot of questions. We did a little digging, of course, as you always do with making sure that you're getting the right candidates in place, talking to different people that we know out in the communities where these individuals were working, just to make sure that, you know, we were seeing and getting the same thing that these folks, fine folks, were demonstrating in the districts that they were working. The final result is, and I'm excited to share tonight, is we came down to our final candidate, who is Misty DeRito. I knew I was going to mess this up. Misty DeRito. Misty, forgive me if you're on. I can't see your name right now, but you might be on listening to us. There you are. Good to see you. I'm super excited to welcome Misty to our MSD community and our MSD school district. Misty really just popped out of the candidate pool. So we were super excited that she chose us as much as we are to choose her. Misty, do you mind? And Michelle, do you mind if I turn it over to Misty for just a second?
Of course not.
Misty, would you mind to say a word or two?
No, definitely. So I'm very excited. I've kind of got to meet a diverse group through the interview process and getting to speak a little bit to the board tonight. But I'm really excited to join this team and immerse myself in the community and bring my kids along and really, you know, become part of what Martinsville High School is in the community academically and in extracurriculars. And just the involvement that I get to have with the community and ultimately the students. And I really can't wait to meet them.
Thank you very much. Sorry to put you on the spot. I
No,
really did
fine.
put Misty on the spot. She didn't know I was going to do that. So I apologize. That was probably not very fair. But we're super excited to have you, Misty. And I would like for the board to consider Misty as the next principal of Martinsville High School. And we will, just as a side note here, just so everyone is aware, everything that we talk about tonight in terms of our candidates and those kinds of things, there will be a press release and some additional information coming out so that you all will know more about Misty and our other candidates this evening. So Misty, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Michelle, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve Misty being our next high school principal.
I would like to ask the board for a motion to approve Misty DeRito as the Martinsville High School principal.
I would like to make a motion to name Misty DeRito as the new principal at Martinsville High School.
Is there a second?
I second.
That motion was made by Debbie and seconded by Dave. We will now do is there any discussion?
I think we have a very good choice as our next principal at Martinsville High School.
All right, we will now do the roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So congratulations and welcome to the MHS Artesian group. I think you'll be a great addition and to an already awesome crew.
Misty, thank you. We appreciate you. We look forward to working with you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Next item. All right. We have made a couple of other decisions. Michelle, I'm going to jump to the two
Okay.
high school positions before we move to Bell Intermediate.
Sure.
Through this process of having an interim principal, and I want to make sure that I bring a spotlight to the fact that Mr. Burgess has really stepped up this year and has really filled in a lot of gaps, and we really appreciate that. And we, of course, are sad to see him move on to his next adventure, but I want to be very clear that Mr. Burgess is a man of his word, and he had already given his word to another school district that he would become their next principal before we had an opening. So while we're sad to see Mr. Burgess go, we're super excited to see what success he brings to the school district that he's moving to. So they're a lucky community. I want to say that right off the top. Additionally, and through this process, we've kind of come to a decision that we're going to move some things around a little bit at the high school. And so if you're not familiar, the structure administratively has been a principal, an assistant principal, and then 2 deans. Tonight, I'm going to ask the board to make a consideration to change that structure. We actually would like for that to look more like a principal, 2 assistant principals, and 1 dean instead. And so tonight I'm going to ask that the board consider moving Audrey Jackson and Ryan Wagner into those positions. I want to talk a little bit about the 2 of them and give just a synopsis of what they've been doing over the last several months along with Mr. Burgess. The 2 of them have really stepped up from their roles of being primarily focused on discipline to really stepping into that assistant principal role and doing a lot of management kinds of things, and really stepping up their leadership in making things be as seamless as possible this second semester. Nobody knew what was going to come in March with the pandemic and all the additional things that we're now dealing with, but I can attest to the fact I've been on Zoom with the 3 of them, Jesse, Audrey, and Ryan, at least 10 times in the last couple of weeks in long meetings talking about high school things and things that we need to be doing in this interim period to make sure that we're supporting kids. And they have not missed a beat. And so I want to honor their hard work and the fact that they've been able to really focus on things other than just discipline and name the 2 of them assistant principals this evening. So I'd ask that the board entertain those appointments. Again, Ryan Wagner and Audrey Jackson moving from deans to assistant principals at Martinsville High School.
Okay, and we'll do that at one at a time. I would like to ask for a motion for Audrey Jackson to be named assistant principal, please.
I make a motion that we appoint Audrey Jackson as an assistant principal at Martinsville High School.
Is there a second?
I'd be glad to second that.
Thank you. That motion was made by Dave and seconded by Steve. Is there any discussion?
Thanks for all of your hard work and everything you've done. We greatly appreciate it, and we're excited for you to be in this new role in addition to what you've already been doing.
Yes, I will second that with Debbie. There's just been reports of how awesome you've been doing. So Audrey, we greatly appreciate all you've done. Roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Myself? Yes. Congratulations, Audrey. Next up, can I please, I'm sorry. Next up, I'd like to ask for a motion for Ryan Wagner to become assistant principal, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we move Ryan Wagner to the position of assistant principal.
Is there a second?
I second.
That motion was made by Dawn and seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion?
Thanks also to Ryan, and congratulations. And we're excited for you to be in this new role at the high school also.
I agree. Thank you for all your work as well. We will now take a roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Myself? Yes. Congratulations, Ryan. Thank you both.
Yes, thank you both. We're very appreciative of their hard work, as I said, and look forward to what this new team brings. One additional item there, because I know the question will be, well, there were 4 positions and now there are 3. That's there will still be a dean at Martinsville High School, and so that position will be posted, and we'll go from there in hiring that position. So I would like for Mrs. Derito to have the ability to be a part of that decision making, and so we kind of halted a little bit on filling that position. So that will be coming in the near future. Final appointment tonight, which I'm super excited about as well. You know, we love to grow our leaders in our district, and you know, I haven't been here that long, but it hasn't taken me long to identify that we have a number of people on our team that step up whenever there's something that needs to be stepped up for. As I mentioned before, I want to talk a little bit about the application process. Most of it is similar to what I mentioned for the high school position. We had 20 applications for the Bell Intermediate position. We, as I mentioned, did the exact same thing in terms of our process in having 2 levels of committees look at the candidates. In the final interview, 2 candidates were forwarded to me, 1 internal and 1 external. Again, super excited that we have an internal candidate that really rose to the top, and we're very appreciative that we have the ability to recommend Ryan Sutterloff as the next principal of Bell Intermediate. We have really witnessed Ryan's leadership. We've really witnessed him really stepping up, like I said, this semester, and it hasn't been a long period of time given all the things that have kind of gone on, but Mr. Sutterloff was able to become interim principal back in the fall whenever Jeremy Ogden came to central office to become the director of business affairs. So that left an opening, and as I told Mr. Sutterloff, that position was interim, and that we were going to go through the process of interviewing people, and we were going to do things as we would, hopefully the community would expect us to do, and go through the process and treat everyone fairly. And I believe we did that. I think Ryan, I believe I saw Ryan's name on here. I think he would attest to the fact that we ran him through the ringer too, even though he was an internal candidate. So I'm very proud of how he performed and the vision he has for Bell Intermediate. And so I would ask for the board to entertain a motion to hire or to move Ryan Sutterloff out of the interim position into the official position of principal of Bell Intermediate.
I'd like to ask for a motion to name Ryan Sutterloff as the principal of Bell Intermediate, please.
I move that we appoint Ryan Sutterloff as the principal for Bell Intermediate Academy.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Dave. Is there any discussion?
Likewise,
Very-
just Ryan, just like Audrey and Ryan Wagner, get the Ryans here straightened out. Just outstanding job and performance when he stepped into the intern position, and did a great job, and I'm sure he'll carry it over into this coming school year.
I would add to what Dave said. Looking at what Ryan's done this past year, I can only be excited about what the future holds.
I've known Ryan, and I for a little while now, and watched him at Bell, and I've always known someday he would have his own building, and I think it's awesome that a couple of the teachers in his building were giving us silent clapping hands while Ryan was being named. So that speaks volumes. And so Ryan, I'm very, very excited for you to get this, as we're getting thumbs up from him. So we will now, anyone else? I'm sorry.
Congratulations.
We will now be doing the roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. Congratulations, Ryan.
Yay.
Board, thank you very much. And Ryan, I'm going to give you just a 30-second opportunity. Do you have anything that you'd like to say? If not, it's okay, but give you the opportunity.
No, I'm very excited for the opportunity. I'm glad I can stay at Bell and continue to work with all the families and staff and students I've gotten to know over the past 3 years.
Awesome. Thank you. We're excited.
Yes.
That's pretty good within 30 seconds.
You train them well.
We will now go into the superintendent report.
Okay. Thank you very much. I feel like I'm talking a lot more than normal. That's okay. So just want to give an update. You know, the performance activity center that we've been talking about at a lot of different meetings that was approved some time ago. And we've been working on the bond issue for that. I'm proud to report again, second year, because I was able to do this when I first came on back in August of last year. You go through basically the same thing you do when you buy a house. So a school district goes through sort of the same process. It's a lot bigger and a lot more expensive, but you go through the same process in trying to get financing for a situation like this. And so that means our credit is checked and a lot of different hoops you have to jump through to get those bond dollars to roll to be financed for a project like this. The exciting thing to me is that now the second time since I've been here, and I hope this continues, we have an AA+ credit rating, which is pretty much amazing, off the charts. This speaks directly to the stewardship of this board and all the hard work that's gone into us not expending money that we don't need to expend. So making sure that we're taking care of our teachers, our kids, and we have nice facilities, but that we're also being reasonable and conservative and making sure that we always have a backup plan in case something happens, a recession, a pandemic, or whatever. And I don't mean to make less of or fun of what's going on right now, but that cash balance and the things that we have on reserve right now really made the difference for us getting the credit level that we were approved for. I can tell you that in reading the document that sort of explains our credit level, and watching some of the other bond sales that have happened in the last couple of days, Avon, Kokomo, there's some other school districts around here that use the same company we do. And so we were privy to some of that information. I would argue that we probably got probably the best rate in terms of our bond issue today. So the bond sale was today, this afternoon. And so it looks like we're most likely good to go tomorrow, and those funds will start flowing here pretty quickly in the next day or two, which will allow us to start construction pretty quick. So the bids have already gone out, bids have come back, construction company has been chosen, and so we're getting close to breaking ground. So as soon as we're able to announce that, there's still some last minute utility kinds of things that have to happen, and some last approvals by the city of Martinsville, but as soon as those things happen, we'll be breaking ground and can get started on that facility. We're super excited about that activity center. So it's just a quick update on that. Again, very proud of the credit rating. And again, I want to give kudos to this board for your hard work over the years and getting our finances in good shape. Not all school districts can say that. I have some people I just really want to thank. I would be very disappointed in myself if I didn't mention these people. We have some true food service heroes, and you're probably going to hear me say this every month for the next several months. But we have people who are putting themselves in jeopardy to make sure that our kids in our community are being fed. And it is a very touching thing to me that these individuals are willing to come in and they don't complain. They're working their tail ends off to make sure that those meals are ready and are delivered to those families on those Monday and Wednesday drive-through meal opportunities. So again, very appreciative of that group of people, and thank you. Additionally, Kurt Bodell, who's running food services or is the director of food services, Kurt has been over backwards. I don't think he's slept since the beginning of March. Every time I see him, I wonder if he needs a nap, and I don't know if he's on right now. Hopefully he's taking a nap, but he's working very hard too. There's a lot of organization that goes into feeding the number of people that we're feeding and trying to do it out of 3 kitchens and keep everybody safe and not have people in buildings they shouldn't be in. There are just so many things that he's balancing. So I really appreciate his leadership in this during this time. I'd also like to specifically thank our maintenance and facilities team who are out in buildings minimally, because just as I've said to everyone else in the corporation, we're doing business from home with the exception of tonight. I am in my office for purposes of the internet, but for the most part, we are all working from home to make sure that we're not doing anything to spread anything that we don't need to spread. And so I feel very strongly about that, and we have a responsibility to our community to make sure that we're taking care of everyone. So our facilities guys are minimally walking buildings to make sure that they're secure, safe. Our HVAC systems are still running. We don't have broken windows. We don't have any vandalism, those kinds of things. And so they're making those checks, but again, they're not doing any typical maintenance work. So we're not changing filters. We're not cleaning. We're not doing those things. They're simply in there checking on things. So we, again, appreciate them still working while the rest of us are working from home. The grounds crews, things that people don't think about, the grass is growing no matter what, and you can't just let it grow. And we had a storm, as many of you know, last week. The power was out. That impacted some things. Our grounds crew the following Monday, we're out there, we're cutting trees and limbs and we're cleaning things up. And again, I appreciate that. No questions asked. We got it. We'll take care of it. People are so proud of the facilities. They want to make sure that things are in top-notch shape for whenever we return to school. So again, I really appreciate our grounds crew for stepping up. Tech team for keeping things running on the back end. I know it's, we just connected the internet and we're excited about that and it's great and it works. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes to make sure that our internet is safe for our students and is always running. And so I really appreciate Brian Freeze and his team for all the work they're doing behind the scenes to keep us up and going, and our devices running as much as we can from afar. Finance people, really appreciate that team. They're making sure our bills are getting paid, and more importantly, they're making sure that everyone on this screen that works for the corporation and everyone that's not on the screen is getting paid normally. And so again, we really appreciate our payroll folks and Jeremy and his team, the finance folks, for making sure those things happen. And finally, I just want to say a sincere thank you to teachers. I'm from a teaching family myself. I talk to my sister, who's a teacher in Monroe County schools almost daily, about how she's doing and her struggles with, trying to teach first and second graders from home. I know what that's like from her perspective and hearing her talk about it. And I hear it in her voice that she misses those kids. And I can't imagine that our teachers are any different in terms of missing their kids and really wanting to be face to face with them. So we know that's hard on everyone. I also know, fully recognize that teachers have children and families too. And so while they're trying to teach everyone else's children and take care of them, they're also trying to manage their own children's e-learning and all the things going on in the house. And we really appreciate your grit for being able to stick with things and really make sure that our families are getting what they need. We put a survey out, as I think most of you probably know. We received a pretty sizable response to that survey. And for the most part, we got pretty glowing responses or understanding responses from our community. So again, I really appreciate that you all have been communicating as teachers and staff to our families that, we're going to do the best we can to get to the end of this year. And then next year when we come back, we'll do whatever we have to do to pick up where we left off and get kids where they need to be. That's quite a commitment on the behalf of our school district and our teachers. So thank you. One of the biggest things that's on the list is graduation. What are we doing with graduation? And I want to be very clear from my lips to everyone else. I want to be very clear that a decision has not been made on what we're doing with graduation. We're not going to make that decision until we're at the midnight hour, because my hope is that things calm down enough and that we have some ability to hold some sort of ceremony that has some sort of traditional approach to it. I can't promise that. Nobody on the screen can promise that, but we're going to do our best to try and have some sort of ceremony if possible, given all the things that are going on. The other thing that I would like to remind everyone, and I know people understand this, but I want to reiterate it, we may not have a choice. And so what we're doing is that we're working really hard with a sizable group of seniors. Mr. Burgess reached out along with Mrs. Jackson, and Mr. Wagner reached out to a sizable group of seniors from all walks of life and pulled them together. And we've had one web conference. And then after that web conference, Ryan, Audrey, and Jesse, and then my staff over here at the CEC, we've been on web conferences several times after that, talking about what the students told us they would like to see. So regardless of where we go, we will have some sort of celebration in some sort of way. We're also talking about a lot of alternatives that if we have to exercise something different other than a typical graduation, we're going to figure out a way to honor these graduates one way or another. So not ready to release those ideas quite yet because we're still working on them. And again, my hope is we don't have to use them. So that just a quick update on what we're doing for our seniors and how we plan to approach that. Last thing, pardon me while I check my notes real quick. Last thing on my list is we did open bids today. So if individuals in the community see people working at Martinsville High School or at John Wooden, those are not our staff, those are contractors who have chosen privately to work. And so you may see vehicles there that are coming and going. We have 2 HVAC projects that were previously approved prior to me coming. And so those obviously would be no reason to stop those projects, and those are things that are budgeted. So I'm excited the fact that those bids were open today, and we can move forward with those projects and get both the steam system at Wooden will be brand new, and the HVAC system at Martinsville High School for the entire building will be replaced this summer. So those are my final comments. It's a lot of stuff. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry for talking so much, but there's a lot of good stuff tonight we want to make sure we draw a lot of attention to. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arthur. A couple of things. I find it kind of funny that a credit rating of A++ and all the teachers out there, I've always told my children that that was a fake grade and didn't really exist. So I find it funny that the credit bureau makes an A++. So now they've made a liar out of me. And thank you very much for the update for the seniors. I have one, and so I have a couple actually. So they're out there waiting, hoping that they get the kind of graduation they want. So I appreciate you being patient and not making decisions quickly. So thank you so much for that report. We will now go into the board comments, and we are going to begin with Mr. Steve Brock.
Okay, earlier in the meeting, I mentioned that my wife is a nurse, my daughter's an EMT, my son's an EMT firefighter. Most people who know me know that that consists of my family, but what folks don't know is I have a much larger family. Personally, I retired from public safety, but one of the things is we're all family: firefighters, police, EMS, etc. And once you're part of that family, you're always a part of that family. And I want to recognize our transportation director, who's also part of that family, who is with us tonight, Mr. Dennis Mills, as a retired sheriff's deputy. We've all been fighting this COVID virus war. We're fighting it together, unified. And I want to personally bring and thank my brothers and sisters on the front line for their service.
Thank you very much, Steve. Dave?
Yes, Dr. Arthur was one. If you don't mind if I throw in a thank you to Kurt and the food service people. Boy, great job. Our maintenance, our grounds, our tech, our finance, our teachers. Boy, what a great job they're doing with the e-learning, and just so many different comments I hear from people, especially in social media, talking about our teachers. And also a thank you, but he doesn't do it himself, so we're going to do it for him, and that's the Dr. J. Arthur and his staff there at CEC. The great job they're doing during this time of COVID-19. And finally here, our parents, our grandparents, and the guardian of our students. Thank you for all you're doing during this difficult time of COVID-19. The governor, well, he issued a stay-at-home order, and boy, it has to be tough. There's no doubt about that. Children staying at home, staying in, the e-learning at home, everybody's accomplishing that, and as parents and as students. And I hope all are getting some fresh air, enjoying family time together. Just a couple comments about it. Stay strong, stay focused. We will get through this together, and we are artisans. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Dawn?
I know this has been brought up here a couple times already, but again, for serving meals to our school community throughout this pandemic, we would like to thank Kurt Bodell, our food service director, Donna Magnus and Kim Walls, our food service managers, along with Brooklyn, Paragon, and Martinsville High School kitchen service staffs. This is a very important resource for our students and our parents and our community. And it's our plan to provide these meals until at least Memorial Day and possibly even until August.
Thank you, Dawn. Debbie?
Mine, I'm going to talk about teachers, and I could sit here probably for a couple hours, but I don't think I will. But thank you to our MSD teachers. You have really embraced this very different way to end the school year. And you've all worked so very, very hard to make sure that our students learn and know how important they are, and to make sure that they're happy. Your dedication and your love of your students and what you do, it's just amazing and so greatly appreciated. And the whole community has really enjoyed all of the videos you've done and all the things you've done. So even when you're doing that for your kids, you're making the rest of the community smile. And I think that's the neatest part. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
The videos are awesome. I really enjoy them.
Can I go now, Dave?
Yes, yeah, you're more than welcome to. Thank you. Hey, they are wonderful. They are just so neat to watch. A lot of creativity. It's yours, Michelle. Thank you.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Even though my group is last, you are the reason we are here and make the decisions we make, our students. This school year did not end as you had planned or expected. You have proven that you can make the most out of a less than ideal situation. It's been so awesome to see all the great creative work you have been doing. You are showing the board and our community how resilient and innovative you can be. Even though you are not in your classroom, you are not forgotten. We want you to know that we care about you, we are thinking about you, and we are so very proud of you. You are a great example of what it means to be an Artesian. Thank you.
I'm going to give Dave a rest right now, so I'm going to intercede here. I just want to also thank all the parents for the accommodations that, you know, they have provided for the e-learning and things that they're doing for their kids. And I know for some that this is really emotional because, Michelle, I know that you have a son who's a senior and would be graduating, and this is not the normal procedure that we usually go through. So I just want to reach out to the community, and particularly those parents of seniors, and certainly thank you all for what you're doing. So
Thank you. With no further board comments, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Don. The motion has been made by Dave and seconded by Don. We'll now have a roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
yes.
Don?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion carries. Our next school board meeting will be Thursday, May 14th. Thank you all so much for, even though this was not a normal proceeding, thank you so much for behind the scenes, Jeremy, for pulling some stuff together so we could get this all done. So thank you all for joining us. Be safe, be well, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.